My wife is studying to be a veterinary technician. She used to be a dog walker.
Oh, nice.
We have our animals. I tend to get along with animals really well. But a long time ago, I know this sounds crazy, I rode like a bicycle, like 1,000+ miles through Canada, like camping along the way.
Wow.
And in the countryside, like I would totally get attacked by dogs.
Oh, wow.
And you have to just like ride as fast as you can to get away from them. There's nothing you can do about it. And I'm just like, I try to be friendly, but there's just something about you being on this moving vehicle out in the middle of nowhere that just causes them to like turn feral Mad Max style. So,
dogs hate wheels.
Yeah. Maybe because it's so anti-paw.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like, what? That's not a movement structure that I understand. That's not something that you should be doing.
The opposite of a dog is a car.
That's right. It's like when you, when a dog sees a person that's too tall.
Yeah.
They're just like, that's not right. Get that out of here. That's not a person. That's something else.
The fatal flaw in every plan is the assumption that you know more than your enemy. This is episode 374 of Insert Credit Show, where our panelists have just 6 minutes to answer these questions lest they face the wrath of a horrible buzzer. I'm guest host filling in for Alex Jaffe, Esper Quinn, and I think the coolest motorcycle in a video game is Cloud's motorcycle from Final Fantasy VII.
I'm Ash Parrish, and I think the coolest motorcycle in a video game? Oh.
Yeah, that's tough. I took the good one as far as I'm concerned.
I guess I'm just going to have to burn it and use the light cycles from Tron and Kingdom Hearts.
Pretty good. From Kingdom Hearts specifically. Okay, I like
that. I didn't play any light cycle games for Tron that exist outside of Kingdom Hearts. Show me the Tron light cycle video game.
Oh, they're out there. There's arcade ones and whatnot. It's kind of like Snake. I'm Brandon Sheffield, and coolest motorcycle. Man, I wish there was like, there's that little cute little moped thing that comes with a Honda City, and I think it's in a video game, but I can't remember what game it's in, and so I'm going to go with a motorcycle that I do not think is the coolest, which is the one in Shadows of the Damned, which just has too much stuff on it, too big of a chopper, IMHO, but I'm just going to mention it.
Perfect.
It's one I can think of.
Hey, that's really what this part of the show comes down to.
Yeah.
So we have a very special guest today. Very excited to have the screenwriter of films like Mandy. Very, very excited to have Aaron Stewart-Ahn on the show today.
Thank you. And this is a great question. I actually ride motorcycles. I work on them. I love motorcycles. God, there's so many to think of in games, but I'm just going to go for now with a recent iteration, the Yaiba Kusanagi C3T from Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, baby.
It's a beautiful machine to ride in the game. I feel a little bad betraying Keanu Reeves' arch motorcycle company who have their actual motorcycles in the game. And I would love to ride one in real life, except they cost like $150,000.
Keanu, if you're listening, send him a motorcycle.
I wish. There's one person in the world I know who has one, and it's Alex Winter, Ted from Bill and Ted. Keanu gifted him one.
We should get him on the show too.
Yeah, you should actually. He's a great person for questions like this. But the motorcycle doesn't handle that great in the game, I'm saying. So
you'd think Keanu would have the pull to make that work better,
right?
So do you play like motorcycle video games exclusively? Like, do you keep a list the same way that one like equestrian lady keeps a list of all like the horse games? Like, sincerely.
No, I'm really actually sad. Like, next to me just off camera is my driving sim seat.
Oh,
and
man.
Driving games. But the thing I am really sad about is please remind me, the Gran Turismo creator.
Polyphony Digital.
I forget his name, but it's Polyphony Digital is the name of the company.
Yeah, but their amazing game, Tourist Trophy for the PS2, which was one of the first games to run 60 FPS, 1080i, if you could support it. But it was basically Gran Turismo for motorcycles. And of all the motorcycle games I have ever played, the only one that approximated the feeling of being on a motorcycle.
Wow.
It's a very hard thing to convey. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like Road Rash did. I felt like Road Rash did because I always felt like it was about to fall apart or I was in danger, and that's what it feels like to me to be on a motorcycle.
Well, I assume whenever you're on a motorcycle, people come up and start swinging chains at you.
That's what happened.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
I've never been myself.
That's why I made the connection.
Road Rash was a documentary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't it have some FMV aspects to the sprites too?
On the Saturn and PlayStation and 3DO version, it did.
Yeah. So they had to film for real people whipping each other with chains.
Mm-hmm.
Can I name actually a second place contender for a motorcycle and video game?
I would love if you
Why
did.
not?
I can't remember the character's name, but from Full Throttle, Ben. Ben's Chopper from Full
That's
Throttle.
a good one.
LucasArts' point and click game. Yeah.
Point and click.
Which in the opening sequence, the front wheel, somebody had pulled the cogs off of it, and he loses the front wheel and crashes, and then he has to rebuild it for the first third of the game.
That's how to start a game right there. Terrifying crash. Well, I am overjoyed to be here. Our friend Alex Jaffe is sick, which sucks, but he did leave some questions for everybody to ask. So how about we get into those? Sound good?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Cool. Let's start with a big one. Where's your favorite place to hang out in an open world game?
Favorite place to hang out in an open world game?
Brandon, what was the last open world game you played?
Recently, I have, because I had to judge some games for a competition, I played Throne game.
Throne game?
Throne
Sure,
game?
Throne, yeah,
Throne
of course.
and something. Throne and god darn.
Throne and Whistle or Blade?
It's called, yeah, exactly. Throne and something. Throne and Liberty is what it's called. I played that, and then I also played that other one that they
of course.
with the shooting.
Okay, we're getting somewhere.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I remember that one.
The open world game with the shooting.
I feel really bad if you are a developer on this game that he's supposed to be judging. You can't even name it.
Brandon's obviously talking about Fallout 76.
It's
harder to name an open world game without any guns.
I know. It's true. I don't remember what it's called, but anyway, I played 2 is the answer. I played 2 recently.
And did you enjoy hanging out in them?
No, I didn't.
I didn't think so.
I didn't enjoy it. Because I guess I'm thinking like MMO style. Those are not the hubs that I have experienced have not been that fun to me. The First Descendant.
The First Descendant. That is a very memorable name.
Yeah.
Yes.
First Descendant. That was the other one that I played. But cool places to hang out. Anybody got some?
I think my favorite place to hang out, it is an MMO, which I'm going to say counts, even if strict definitions do not. What I used to do, because I'm a nerd, during Burning Crusade, World of Warcraft, I would go to like the new continent, Outworld, I think. And there's a place, Honor Hold is like the first like main area in this new continent that you go to. And there's a bar there. And I used to where you don't have to, log out at a specific place, obviously in an MMO. So I would, every time I would end a session for a day, I would fly to that inn and log out looking at the face of my favorite NPC. I forget what his name is, but he had that slick ass. I know, Justicar armor set. Like, if you're an old school Burning Crusade player, you know exactly who I'm talking about. He's like a high elf. I literally forget his name. But yeah, I had such a crush on him. He was an NPC, and I would just log out looking at his face. That was my favorite thing to do.
That is so cool.
I have to give a shout out to everyone hanging out at Ulda right now on the Balmung server. Final Fantasy 14 for life.
Oh no, yeah, like I've definitely done a dancing and Limsa Laminsa, so I get it.
That's like when you have a crush on someone, you want to see their picture just before you go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Because it's soothing. That's wonderful. I'm going to name a place which is, it's pretty, of all the open world games, Kamurocho from the Yakuza series / Like a Dragon series.
Oh man, if that counts, then yeah.
Absolutely it counts.
I mean, it's such a triumph to me of like, I know it for decades. It's like, years ago there was that movie Boyhood by Richard Linklater that they filmed over 32 years for real or something like that. Every
700 years, yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like Kamurocho is like that.
Yeah.
And the Yakuza series, how it's taken from 0 to, the latest installment, like that like decades have passed, and we've gotten a sense of what those decades were like for that place. You've seen the same buildings, like you've seen the effects of gentrification and real estate struggles, but also the novelty and just the vibe, the sound. And it's a really clever game too when you look at like reusing assets, the way they're able to do one of these games that you can play for 400 hours every year is just by recycling animations from 12 years ago in NPCs and stuff. But that place just feels like I have this really like crazy early gaming memory of like playing Shenmue for the first time on the Dreamcast, and how in his house you could like open the drawers in the kitchen and like look at the
rotate an
spatula
apple.
and the magazine. Yeah. And at the time, I mean, it was slow and boring and clunky, but it was like,
that's full reactive eyes entertainment for you.
Yeah. I feel Yakuza has carried that torch a little bit in terms of
absolutely
rendering a place. And also, I just think compared to some other open world games, it's so much smaller geographically, with so much more interesting things happen in it in a smaller place. Yeah, you don't need a car; you're always on foot.
I love it. You might call it a closed world game because it is only in that zone. But yeah, it's the only, or one of the only places that I have spent time digitally where I felt like I was going somewhere. Like I felt like I was going on vacation or being in a different actual place. And I was just playing Slitterhead yesterday, which it takes place in Hong Kong, and it goes kind of in and out and around Kowloon Walled City and stuff like that. But it doesn't really have that same sense of place because of the way that the way that they reuse animations is that all humans basically have to be the same, because in that game you can like possess any human, and so it winds up getting kind of genericized, and kind of like the weird edges are shaved off a little bit. So it was an interesting contrast for me, like the Yakuza games, where even though a bunch of people are doing the same stuff, they're doing more weird stuff, or they're like talking into their phone about whomever or whatever. And then in Slitterhead, it was like necessarily much more generic and a little less weird, which makes it feel less like a real place, because as we all know, in a real city, it's just weirdos walking around being certain that they're the main character of the world.
Right.
Like dressing as a giant baby.
Exactly.
So don't hang out in the world of Slitterhead, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. You get murdered there.
Can I ask a question, Esper?
Absolutely.
This isn't like the end of episode question, but do any of you ever have like I get this thing now, like I'm in my 40s and I've been playing games since childhood. Kind of came up with floppy disks to what we have now in the background of my life. And I sometimes get this very weird interstitial feeling of like remembering a game space, but I can't remember specifically what game it's from. So it's lodged in this very dreamlike part of my memory. And I'll do this nostalgic thing where I'm trying to remember what exactly game was that. But I'm amazed that like spaces from the games like persist in my memory in certain ways.
I will say every dungeon crawler, every like first person in a dungeon, all the exact same game to me. No difference between them.
Right.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Like, well, two things about that. One is that's fun fodder for like, we do things on the insert credit forums where it's like someone has a half remembered game and then someone will try to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
But also, what's cool about that kind of memory, I think, when people are nostalgic for something, I feel like they're not often nostalgic actually for that thing. They're nostalgic for the feeling of that thing gave you.
That's correct.
The vague memory of that space is more accurate to your experience than if you actually figured out what it was and went back and played it. And like, I feel the modern games that tap into that well are the ones that don't try to like recreate an NES game. They try to recreate the feeling of playing that game. And it's like the restrictions aren't what's important. It's the feeling and the vibes. It's an interesting space I think about a lot.
I totally understand.
Right.
Yeah, there's that weird.
Sorry, everybody. I got to call time. That's the buzzer there.
Buzzer.
Okay.
Unless anybody wants to use a credit.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
We have credits. How many do we have?
There's a crazy system that's been devised. Ash has, I don't know how many right now. I think 5.
I should have 5, yeah.
Brandon has 1. Frank
Wow.
has, I think, 3.
He has 2 or 3. Yeah, I spent
I
4
have 0.
recently. We should give you one. We should give you one. So
Absolutely.
you can have one so that you can one up a question.
I'm the guest host. I'm the substitute teacher. I get to do whatever I want. Aaron gets 5 credits.
Whoa.
5 credits to use
No.
however he wants right now.
Then I'm going to evenly distribute them so we all each get 1.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Well, let's see how you
We'll
feel
see
by
if
the end of the
Jeffy lets
episode.
me get
Yeah.
away with that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Question 2. When is it obvious that zero research has gone into a particular video game scene?
Video game scene.
Yeah, this one's for you,
I
Aaron.
have an answer for this one.
Lay
I was
it
talking
on me.
about to Brandon about something. I am obsessed with. Okay, I know this is kind of a weird tangent, but the aesthetic repulsion and aesthetics. How sometimes something you don't like lodges in your mind, like a pop song you hate, ends up
Oh, yeah.
repeating
Oh
in your
yeah.
mind.
Oh yeah.
And like there's that sequence from Amelia Perez that's gone viral that is so hideous, like you can't get it out of your mind. But for me, I have this particular obsession, and I know making games is hard. I don't want to disparage anybody who works on them, but the nightclub on the planet of Nova in Starfield, that's supposed to be like the cyberpunk nightclub. I think it's called the Astral Lounge, is the worst researched nightclub in the history of video gaming. It is fascinating to me. It is apparent that nobody involved in the design of it have ever been to a club ever. It is so strange. It's supposed to be a place where you're allowed to take drugs legally called Aurora, and as you walk in, the NPCs just start barking at you immediately. Whoa, I'm on Aurora and I'm so high. And then there's like 3 people on a dais in the center dancing with very awkward animations, but they're in these suits that make them look like neon purple Teletubbies. And I think they're supposed to be like cool, sexy Twi'leks or something, but they're just like...
That's the Aurora suit you have to wear to take the drug.
It's incredible. And I mean, there are plenty of memes about it. Like, people compare this nightclub to other nightclubs in video games.
Yeah, because that sounds like Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes Mass Effect's nightclub look like Berghain in Berlin. I mean, it's like, it's so bad. After this is done, I recommend you look at the nightclub and Starfield videos, because
That's too bad. I know every other part of Starfield is widely beloved. That's,
Yeah, Aaron showed it to me the other day, and it is really impressive. It's kind of like, again, I don't want to be cruel either, but it is kind of like a 10-year-old's idea of what a club might look like. Gyrating people just like in the center on a raised platform, and neon lining the backgrounds, but with no particular artistry. It just really feels like, what would a club be like? Kind of a thing.
We were comparing it to a club in like GoldenEye 64 and how much cooler the club in GoldenEye 64 was.
Yeah, and that's
But
depressing.
I just let the devs and the art team go to a nightclub is all I'm saying. Just let them go to one.
Because I'm a nerd, I've actually never really been to a nightclub. So anytime I see like a nightclub depicted in like a movie or a video game, I think that's what they kind of actually are. Like, what if it was like a really swanky, really cool underground club? Of course they would have like weirdos dancing on daises and stuff like that.
it's exactly like that in real life.
I just take it at face value because I have no idea.
Well, it seems like you should work on Starfield.
The DLC, the nightclub focused
DLC.
Yeah. Hey, Mass Effect got nightclub focused DLC, if I remember. So
Yes, they did.
Wait, really? What was that?
wasn't that the Citadel one, the third one?
Yes. There's another one, and I think it's probably Lair the Shadow Broker, maybe. I'm not sure.
That sounds right.
Brandon, you were going to say there are other games?
Oh yeah, just other games where people clearly didn't do research. Unfortunately, I can't remember the exact names, but there are so many racing games for the PlayStation where I'm not sure if the people had ever been in a car or knew how they moved, etc. There's some real funny ones on there. There's also a lot of games where like people do drugs and and then the screen gets all wavy and whatever, and it's like, okay.
Take a hit of a joint and immediately lose control. And
Far Cry has some great entire sequences, even missions based around, I just did these shrooms, and then like what happens as a result. But man, wasn't there like an early precursor to Gran Turismo that was a kart game that had the physics of Gran Turismo, but in a crappy kart game? Wow. And that's how he got, I swear that's like, he couldn't get the green light to develop Gran Turismo from Sony. And they forced him to do a licensed kart game. And it actually has amazing physics and drives and handles like the first Gran Turismo.
Something tune, not cool tune, something
Toontown Racing or something like that. I think I remember this.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I had another one.
We'll have it in the show notes.
It just left my mind, but it's one of those situations where you wish you could prepare a little bit.
Well, you got 20 seconds.
Got 20 seconds. I'm not.
It'll just make you flail fur.
And I'm gonna say, badly researched, the majority of fantasy games where people online complain that they aren't accurate to ethnicities.
Why isn't everyone here white?
People can shoot fireballs, but yeah, why are there people who aren't white here? That's like an example of audiences not doing the research.
Yeah,
Indeed.
absolutely.
Indeed.
Let's move on to question 3 here, which I'm very excited about. Design a video game where the hero is played by Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
We haven't answered this question before from the dirtbag?
No, we haven't.
Because this sounds like a dirtbag question.
Well, okay.
Superman 64.
One little part that I've thought of. Yeah, Superman 64 would be good.
Perfect. Moving on.
Is we should have a bar that fills up called the Cage Rage Gauge.
All right, we got an episode title. Thank you for that, Brandon.
You keep like all your actions increase Nicolas Cage's rage, and when his rage gauge is full, he goes full Nick Cage on him, and that's when you get all your expletive barks, and he's going all googly eyed. But I feel like since it's him, we got to have moments of quietude and sublime beauty and like pure capital A acting.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how we fit that in yet. I just want to get the Cage Rage Gauge in there.
Well, clearly we're thinking some kind of action genre then.
I think action, but with some real story interactivity.
Right. Okay.
Not to like burst the bubble of the question, but I think we actually legitimately have this game because he's a survivor in Dead by Daylight.
Absolutely.
Which is and he's playing himself. He's not playing a character. So
he's just Nick Cage.
Wait, really? I did not know this.
He came out at the Game Awards and did a whole thing on it.
And he's not playing any kind of character. He's just Nicolas Cage, and he has to run around with like Leon Kennedy while like Leatherface chases him, which has the same kind of like absurdity that regular Nicolas Cage movies have, along with like the whole like survivor aspect of it, which gives you those quieter beats. So like what Brandon was saying, like we kind of have that game.
Yeah, now I remember, and I have played it, and I could just completely slip my mind. And I have to say, as somebody who worked with him, Nick is, I was on set for All of Mandy. He's not an abstraction to me. He's a person that I know, and I know very beautiful, sensitive human things about him. And he is fantastic, and he has he has a lot of interest. I do know his son plays a lot of video games, but Nick does not. But I'm going to propose, while being very sincere, that I really do like respect and admire and just really like love the guy, and I'm so happy I got a chance to see him work and create in real time. I would do a fighting game where it's Nicolas Cage like doing his acting style versus all other acting styles.
Oh yeah,
so it'd be like it'd be like Tekken, but like your opponent would be like Method or like Stanislav and whatever, or somebody from the Mame school, and like Cage just like does a fatality with just like dialing it up.
Well, yeah, I think that Cage
should combo moves.
He should be. First of all, Cage has been in Mortal Kombat.
He's Johnny Cage.
But I like this idea where Nicolas Cage is not necessarily the focus. He's one of the fighters, and you can choose method, and you could choose Avery Brooks and whatever weird method he uses, where he surprises everybody by just going off. Yeah, I like this acting fight idea.
And you get to keep the Cage Rage Gauge.
Yeah.
Totally. And you can even call it Cage Rage, but it would also, like, the drunken fighter in Virtua Fighter who's elderly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you could have like Cage fight like John Barrymore or something, or, like somebody from the old timey days of acting, or pairing him off against him. Yeah.
Charlie Chaplin is the final boss in arcade mode.
I was thinking who's that really physical fella who's not Charlie Chaplin?
Buster
Keaton.
Buster Keaton, yeah.
That'd be a good one too.
Buster Keaton could be the sub boss.
He'd be a tough boss.
Yeah, for sure. Buster Keaton's like the Akuma. He's the
there you go
of the series.
He's unlockable.
Chaplin is very M. Bison, and
for sure.
Buster Keaton is very.
So that is our buzzer. We're going to move on to the only question that I am even more excited about. This is number 4. Design a video game where the main villain is played by Nicolas Cage.
Jeez.
You have 6 minutes.
Okay.
We have to do something completely straight.
Yeah.
Like Pig.
Right. Oh, that's brilliant, Ash.
So he could be like a big time capitalist or a politician type in this. And he's thwarting you with bureaucracy, but he's also actually a bit powerful because, all these CEOs and stuff, they got nothing but time. So they're always like working out,
money.
keeping healthy, shooting guns, killing exotic animals.
So Metal Gear Revengeance is what you're pitching here?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised Kojima hasn't scanned him yet. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like he should be in Death Stranding too, right?
Right?
Kojima is, no offense to the guy, he's too basic for Nicolas Cage to be excited about Nicolas Cage. His favorite book, his favorite author is Dan Brown. Whenever he's talking about music, he's like, "Oh man, I love Weezer." He's just like a super basic guy, and that works.
Dumb person's idea of a smart person, but video games.
Brandon, he personally told me he loved Mandy. I'm gonna admit it, like he did on Twitter, so anybody could have seen it. Nice. Anybody could have seen it. This is before I nuked my account from Orbit, so it's gone.
It does seem like he has good taste in movies specifically.
Yes,
as well as cool jackets.
He likes them all, but I do really love the Hideo Kojima judgment tweet is I saw blank.
Captain Marvel is the one I remember.
Which is like the death knell. It's like the worst movie in the world is, I saw Cats or I saw Megalopolis.
The best thing you can get is a full thread from him, and otherwise you just get a sentence.
We're definitely being on tangent here, but I love his Blue Sky presence, which is basically just, here's a video of me meeting a man, and you have no idea who it is or what the context is. It's just like Kojima with his phone walking into a room, and a guy goes like, "Oh, hello." Like, what was that?
And
what are you doing?
Picture?
That actually sounds like I was going to say that Kojima on Blue Sky Presence sounds exactly like Kendrick Lamar's burner on Instagram, where it's nothing, just Kendrick doing random stuff. And it's just Kendrick Lamar like doing push-ups in like jeans on blacktop in the middle of like Long Beach, California. It's like
it is. All right. So Kendrick is the protagonist of our game. Hideo Kojima's making it, and Nick Cage is the antagonist.
Nick is the villain. Yeah,
I like this.
And Kendrick is subtitled because he's going. Well,
then of course, Nick would play the devil.
I like that. Perfect.
Cage would start out as this like oligarchish, billionaire involved in some conspiracy involving Dan Brown, like the Shroud of Turin. But then it turns out at the end that Nick Cage has actually got like the devil inside him.
Nice.
He was the Satan the whole time.
Yeah.
See if we can get Nick Cage to say "hooah" and just like channel the De Niro in Devil's Advocate, and just make it really confusing. That's what I would like to do.
Perfect.
I want to mix as many metaphors in there and references and just make it really like, what? Is that what they meant?
He would be the ultimate devil by like deceiving you, like the face of the deceiver, by doing all other actors devils or something.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. It'd be meta. It'd be very Metal Gear Solid 2. Yeah.
He's got form shifts where each time you beat him as the final boss, he becomes a different devil from cinema history.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He becomes that devil from Legend.
I think Nick would actually like this.
Oh yeah, we got to pitch this to him.
Tim Curry's demon, yeah,
right.
Yeah, baby.
The Skarsgård from Constantine.
Yes, Constantine.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah. Wow. Whoa. This is actually cool.
All right, well, let's get working on a script. We'll take care of that while we go on this quick break.
I love Final Fantasy 15. It's my favorite Final Fantasy.
I'm with you. Oh my God. Are we the only two people who
No,
agree
because-
on this in the
Like
world?
15 the most.
Yeah, there's like at least 2 or 3 more people that think that.
I've realized that I like all the Nomura ones. I like 7, I like 8, I like 10 to some degree, and I love 13. I'm one of those freaks.
That's fair.
Ash, where are you on 15?
Oh, I love 15. It's like in my top 3 probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you.
I can't say it's number 1 because I really like Final Fantasy 12. It's the best for me personally.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Listen, we got to get back to the show, but I'm going to say I'm Ignis, Ash, whoever you want to be. You guys figure it out.
I want to be Ignis.
Too bad. I already called it. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Which of the 4? Who's the one with the glasses?
Ignis.
That's Ignis.
That's Ignis.
The best one
We're
has
for
already been
Ignises.
We all want to be Ignis. We all want to be
No,
Ignis.
I'm either Prompto or Noctis, 100%. I'm one of those two for sure.
You have Noctis vibes. That's
I
a
guess.
compliment.
You have
Yeah.
Noctis vibes. You do, Brandon. Like
Noctis
seriously.
is the easiest shift across for sure.
Welcome back to Insert Credit.
Thanks.
Here again, we're going to dive right into the gross, stinky, disgusting question hole. The question hole is our segment where we answer questions from patrons at patreon.com/insertcredit. If you'd like access to that forum to ask brilliant minds such as Aaron Stewart-Ahn and Ash Parrish and Brandon Sheffield questions, go ahead, sign up at any level, and you'll be able to throw disgusting, smelly things into the question hole.
Jaffe is not here. You don't have to call it that.
Yeah, the question pit. I'm not really sure.
God.
I'll call it the interrogation hole. How about that?
Okay.
This week on the interrogation hole, we have a question from Spencer who asks, what are games' biggest strengths as a medium? What can you do in games that are much harder or impossible to do in other entertainment mediums?
Mm.
Oh God, this is a 6-hour answer.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. You have 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Go.
So it's the interactivity is the main thing that we got. And I think one of the most interesting things that we can do, well, okay, I'm not going to say most interesting. An interesting thing that you can do with games is force someone to either do something or turn their game off. Like in a horror film, you are passively experiencing it. You're sort of there with them, but you don't have to do the things. And in horror video games, when there's a weird sound coming from that room and you don't know what's in there, you yourself have to open that door. And I think that's one of the big things that video games do is it makes you make the choice to move forward in ways that may make you uncomfortable.
So removing that interactive element can really drive something, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
What he said?
Well, one thing movies can't do is make your stats go up. So that's something.
That's true.
I don't know. I've watched a few movies where I felt my stats go up. Like,
You leveled
while
up
I was
after
watching
that
the
one?
Street Fighter movie. Yeah.
Sure, yeah,
When M. Bison said it was Tuesday for me, I leveled up mentally. No, but I'm gonna roll off of Brandon here because it's a really interesting thing. I mean, it also depends on the type of game, because a driving game and whatnot. I'm just very interested in. I've written in many different mediums. Like Brandon, I've done a little bit of comics. I've done screenplay work. I've worked in games a little bit, and I'm just constantly fascinated and asking myself, what is it about my favorite games that are so compelling and interesting to me that I feel is unique to the medium? I'm very much into what can comics do that films can't. I think there are certain like panel layouts that represent time that other mediums can't do.
That's what Watchmen's all about.
Yeah. And there's this language, of cinema that's kind of diffused into everything, or even critics talk about cinema as if they're radio plays. They don't mention editing. But for games, the thing that I think is really interesting as working as a writer, trying to dramatize things, the ability to, what Brandon's saying, to pose a moral dilemma that the person interacting with it has to make the choice instead of the characters. And this goes all the way back to, for me, to like Ultima 5, I think, when I was a kid. And Ultima 5 is the game where you come back to the kingdom after you've been away for a few years, but like 100 years have passed in the kingdom, and this tyrant has taken over. And I just have this very, like, one of the most essential, earliest memories I have of playing a game like this man in stockades. And I think this matches kind of our political era. Him and his son were in stockades, medieval style, and they're just like little sprites. And he like asks you in text to free him and his son so they can escape. And if you do it, like the whole town guard is going to rise up against you. And my brain froze. It was the first time that I ever had the option of morally choosing. For all the movies I'd seen in my life, like I had to make a choice about what would happen. And as Brandon's saying, it can affect you in ways that you weren't expecting or guide you in possibilities. I mean, I'm also interested in like, why do revenge plots work so good? It's like we don't have social justice in real life. So there's a catharsis in seeing explosive vengeance on screen.
Definitely.
But I feel like games can like enact in strange ways empathic things from certain points of view that require us to think and consider about experiences and morality that we haven't had. And I think that's a really interesting space for games to explore more and more. I think it's in like the most interesting indie games I'm playing now and the AAA games that are ambitious enough to try something like that. Sorry for the long-winded thing.
No, that's good.
That's
great.
Perfect.
That's what we like. Have you gotten to play Indica?
No.
Okay.
One of the saddest things for me is right now, and I'm warning your audience, I hope you like movies and TV shows based on games, because the comic book well has run dry, and Hollywood is currently obsessed with strip mining games.
Yeah.
And there's so much stuff I can't talk about because of NDAs, but things that I've worked on.
A fourth Sonic movie has been announced.
Nice.
All I was going to say, the GDC survey came out, and one of the tidbits in there was that like there was this goodly percentage of people had been approached or know of projects where Hollywood is trying to make a show or adaptation out of your video game. So it's coming. We see it coming.
And it's interesting. I see script writing where I can tell the script writer is borrowing an experience from a video game. Like, they've obviously never been a tier 1 operator in, the Middle East, but they have played Call of Duty, and I can see it in the writing and how they describe things.
That's really interesting.
But I think it is interesting because for years, like, the idea was that video game writing was subpar and Hollywood was so much better at it. And I've never believed that. There's been great writing in the medium game since its inception, and there still is. But in terms of like experience and what it can do, I just feel like there are still amazing frontiers in games that the movies can't do.
Yeah,
I think I'm always looking for.
In general, a lot of film scripts, like the best film scripts, are better than the best game scripts. But in terms of writing for an experience, I think games have something very, very interesting that is separate to Hollywood and which Hollywood could not do.
But just before the buzzer, it makes me think of the beginning of Half-Life 2, where you are given essentially the ability to move around and direct the camera, but no other power. And you are constantly just like knocked down and pushed around and led into space. And then eventually you get a crowbar, and there's that guy that was flashing a bright light in your face. You can hit that thing now. That's a powerful experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of thing I think we're talking about. So thank you for that question, Spencer. Moving on. This is a big one, another 6-hour question. What do good graphics mean in 2025?
Shoot. Good graphicisms.
If you say super scaling.
Yes, super scaling in 2025 is good graphics.
Actually, it is though. I
Agreed.
think personally, and I've always thought this, good graphics are graphics that don't age. So good graphics are graphics that are stylized and have a vibe to them that makes them feel something somewhat other than real, so that in 20 years it still looks as good as it did right now. That's kind of how I feel about it. But I've sort of been getting pulled back from my anti-realism idea, because I mentioned Indica earlier, and we're going to talk about that in the games we played episode later. But that game has a lot of realism to it, but also surrealism to it in a way that I feel like is going to age pretty okay, which is interesting. It's like when you take a small object and you make it really huge, that's strange. It makes you think that something's going on, but you're not really sure what that is. And if you render that with high detail, that's quite interesting. Like there's a part of that game where you're in a cannery and the cans just keep getting bigger. And eventually they're bigger than you. And they're stacked into an impossibly high in this 500-story building that you're suddenly in, and nobody's discussing it. And it's not weird to anybody. But it's weird to you as the player. And I feel like if those cans were not rendered so lovingly, I wouldn't have that same feeling. And so I think that realism can be great when it's pushed in a direction that makes you think about realism and reality. Does that make sense?
So sorry to interrupt here, but just so that we're all on the same page, I would say that what you're describing is more art direction. And is that just what graphics are now?
That's true.
That's
a good point.
I was going to say, like, I'm going to take the less nuanced take of this question and say it means not a goddamn thing in 2025. Like, there's no need to waste your computing power and your budgeting time and all of that in pursuit of making, being able to see Sephiroth's individual nose hair in Final Fantasy 7-3, whatever that is. Like, we can't tell the difference anymore. Like, it's not important. I mean, it's important to some people, but it's just like not
getting
important
to see
to the
my
bottom
baby
line.
girl Cloud's eyelashes was a big deal for me, I must say.
I gotta say, I think that to Ash's point, good graphics to me means I like it.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, it's just that pursuit of realism thing that is so expensive it's not it anymore. And like, to Brandon's point, it makes games look dated, which is why, Final Fantasy X still looks as amazing as it does right now than it did however many years ago, more than 20 at this point. And, Final Fantasy 15 still looks good, but you can very much tell it's of its time. Like, this is a PS4 looking ass game. So yeah, I mean, that's just how it works.
I was gonna, Ash said something that triggered a thought for me. But I'm gonna cheap out and just say, like, in this day and age, anything that's not generated by AI and has human expressiveness in it is good graphics to me at this point. Any remaster, I guess, is that what you meant by super sampling?
Anything made by
super scaling.
Super scaling is like Outrun. It's just the
that's rad. Yeah,
it was just a throwback to an earlier episode where I was throwing out too many terms. But yeah.
But I am fascinated by remasters, and like, you'll see them and then you look at the original version, which sometimes now with how fucked search engines and YouTube is so messed up. Yeah, like you try to find footage of an old game and you can't, but then you do, and you realize there's such a disconnect in your mind, as we were all talking, like the memory of the game. Good graphics evoke, I think, I'll take this further, away from the AI thing, human expressionism rendered as art. That's what's put into a game that's loving, and it lasts in time. Like, your memory of it expands into something. I think the best art, no matter the medium, gives the person receiving it a space in their own imagination to do something with it. Like, it's not completed in full. There's a great story I heard about this is years ago. There's these amazing graphic designers I knew, and who were really did some really big title sequences for movies and stuff. And one of them went to see Attack of the Clones on acid. And halfway through the movie, like, he was like, is this a dud? Like, nothing is happening, nothing. And then he went into the bathroom, and he was in the bathroom, he realized he was tripping balls, like streakers, everything was weird. And then he goes back into the theater, no effect. And it was like, Attack of the Clones is so in focus and everything is so sharp and there's so much stuff in every shot, like with the visual aesthetic and how it was using CGI, that it doesn't leave any room in your imagination to complete the illusion.
Yeah, just sober them right up.
Yeah. And so I'm borrowing from movies, but I feel like good graphics are something like they stay in your mind in a way that no matter how rudimentary or surpassed they might be in fidelity now, in your memory, you remember it as something vivid. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and just not made by AI.
Totally.
Yeah. It seems like Star Wars especially should give you space to fill things in.
I would agree.
Yeah, which is, the difference between the regular editions and the, So somebody released these grindhouse scans of the first 3 movies from 16 millimeter beat up prints. You can find them, dig around on the internet, and they feel like your memory of watching the movie as a child. Like there's burn marks, scratches, the sound warbles, but it has this like warm tone that just reminds you of your memory, and that disconnect is really interesting.
Perfect. Well, one last question before we go into our lightning round. What is the Decemberists of video games?
Oh my.
Y'all hate me so much.
To be fair, Ash, I also have never heard a Decemberist song.
You've never heard a December song, Ash?
Maybe I have, and I just don't know that that's like the Decemberists. Brandon, what do they have that I might recognize?
I got an answer.
No, I'm also out on this one. I also
this one's all for you, Aaron.
Okay, so Esper has asked me this because like the start of my filmmaking career it's entirely owed to that band and Colin Malloy. The front person and the songwriter for the Decemberists.
Did you do like music videos or something?
I directed like all their early music videos. I was a PA at DreamWorks. I worked on Shrek 2. It was one of the worst jobs I ever had.
Too Shrek, Too Furious.
People there, yeah. And I actually there is one Shrek 2 minor contribution I made, which is there is a scene in Shrek 2 where Fiona does the Shoryuken from Street Fighter 2.
Oh, yeah.
That was exactly the result of, and maybe I can't take credit for this at all, but
do it.
David Katzenberg, the head of DreamWorks Animation, he came in and there was, she was doing moves from The Matrix, and he came in and he's like, I just saw Matrix Revolutions last night. The Matrix is dead. It's going to bomb. We need to remove all Matrix references. I swear to God. And he's like, what can we put in that's an iconic martial arts thing? And I went, Shoryuken. And the lead animator was like, oh, do what Aaron just did there. Do the dragon punch from Street Fighter 2. So Fiona does that. But I quit because it was, a 80, 100 hour week job. I had no life. And the Decemberists, who I met through a mutual friend, they asked me to direct a music video. It was minuscule budget, but I pulled in every favor in the world. I think they thought I was going to get like a DV camera, and make something handheld, but I brought in like a camera crew. We shot on 16 millimeter, made this video. And, it was the start of my filmmaking career, working on them on several videos. And I can answer this because I'm sorry to you, Colin, if you ever see this. Colin plays games. And the games he loves are the Souls games. And I feel that Miyazaki's like invocation of history and obscure poetic kind of like gothic ludicrousness at times like is a good fit for the Decemberists. Bloodborne is probably the most Decemberist game I've ever played. But the Decemberists were when indie rock was stuck in this really emo phase of like white guys singing about how mad they were that their girlfriends dumped them. I
didn't want to be rude, but that is what I know of the Decemberists, is that they're white guys in an indie rock band.
No, the Decemberists were so unique in that they were equally like, we're all white, but male and female. So there was this balance there. It was much more Fleetwood Mac. But Colin had been like this failure playing shows to literally nobody in bars. And he started writing songs about like Antarctic explorers and vampires as a joke to himself. But he kept going with it. So Decemberist albums have all these literary allusions and are about very ridiculous literary fantasy conceits. I mean, you can find all of genre fiction and extraordinary references to historical events in their music. It's not about breakups. I mean, maybe metaphorically on some level, but it kind of, for me, at the time they were playing, it really liberated my mind to think of how music could still be funny and imaginative. And it was very Kate Bush, like Kate Bush has songs about, World War II scientists designing a song that kills soldiers. She has songs about Hammer horror movies. There's this very campy element of borrowing from fantasy and fiction, and that's what Colin was pursuing.
So Kate Bush would be the Kingsfield of music, is essentially.
Okay, and then
totally. And then they're Bloodborne, Or
Love it.
if, in another way, there is like this one Decemberist album that's kind of metal, and that's very Devil May Cry. It's very
Perfect.
Baroque and leather pants, but very dorky at the same time. Like a dork in leather pants.
So I guess they would be a Souls-like Decemberborn.
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 Colin would love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he listens, so we'll get to the lightning round now. This is one of my favorite games. This is name design. What I'm going to be doing is reading a list of names that all are collected on the same topic, and you are all going to design video games as quick as you can based solely on the name. These are each going to be the names of Czech New Wave classics.
Nice.
Oh, hell yeah.
You really hate me.
Trust me, Ash, you've played this game. You know you don't need to know what any
You
of
don't
these
need to
are.
know what they're about. We're not.
We're not
Okay.
quizzing you on these.
I know.
It's just based on the name.
Like Vera Chitlova movies? Like, is that what this is?
I think you'll get an idea of what we're talking about pretty quick here. We're going to start off with The Devil's Trap.
That's a game with Nicolas Cage in which he does various devils across
starring
history.
Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just the name of our Cage game.
Jeez.
Moving on. Go ahead.
Yeah, move on.
Moving on, we have The Cry.
The Cry.
The Cry?
The Cry.
Oh.
Okay, this is
breakup simulator.
exactly. It's like that one that I can't remember the name of that we used to make fun of all the time. That's like about the two people having a relationship. It's exactly that game.
Gone Home.
It's not.
What is you with obscure or oblique video game references, Brandon?
But we
I like Gone Home.
I like Gone Home as well.
I'm thinking
about the mobile one. Brandon?
No. It was a
the
big
500
deal in
days of summer of video games.
It was a big deal in the mid 2000s, but if Frank were here, he would remember what it was called. It was a big deal at one time.
Okay.
But anyway,
We know what The Cry is. Next
The
game,
Cry is that.
Lemonade Joe or The Horse Opera.
Oh my god. The horse opera?
Lemonade Joe. I think
Lemonade
this is
Joe
like
or The Horse Opera.
this is it's like a bartending simulator in Red Dead Redemption 2,
Okay.
where you operate the lemonade stand at the horse opera, and you're just trying to give everybody their lemonade at the right time. Make sure that this person wants it a little hot, this one wants it a little cold.
Right, absolutely. It's just a
Yeah.
management sim.
Just a management sim.
For me, it's a 1994 CD-ROM game made by David Lynch
Yeah,
Aw.
here we go.
Yeah. with
That sounds a lot better.
FMV sequences
Absolutely.
that are highly compressed, and you go to Lemonade Joe's factory, and
It's only
try
on
to
the
save the
3DO.
horse circus.
I don't think David Lynch would want us watching a movie on our effing CDI. But
Next one, Diamonds of the Night.
Diamonds of the Night. That sounds cool.
Mining simulator?
Okay, straightforward.
Vampire mining simulator.
Vampire mining simulator.
mining
Okay.
simulator. I
There we
like.
go.
Now we're
Do
getting
the
into it.
vampires eat gems? Do they need the
It's got to
gem?
be blood diamonds, naturally.
Blood
They
diamonds, yeah.
mine during the day
Oh.
where they're protected underground by the sun.
Okay.
And then they go
Oh.
and they use the diamonds that they mine during the day to buy outfits to make them look really nice when they go out at night so they can attract the right amount of or enough prey so they can keep themselves fed.
Just
I don't
some
know.
real blue collar vampires. I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just working their way through.
Are there platforming sequences in the mines?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, that's the mini game you use to dig out the diamonds.
You got to hop between mine carts and
I think Ash is coming with the best game so far.
Loves of a Blonde.
Loves of a Blonde.
Correct. That is the name of this Czech New Wave classic.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
a
that's
famous
a
one.
dating simulator.
Naturally.
And it stars a golden retriever
Okay.
I like
who
that.
loves everybody.
It's Tulip, but you're a dog.
That's right. Tulip, but you're a dog.
This
Delightful.
one's called Intimate Lighting.
Intimate
Ooh.
light. Oh.
You know, I feel like this is one of
Ooh.
those. This is one of those like physics puzzly type games where you're like you change. You have a red light and then you bring it over here and then
Yes.
suddenly all the the things disappear and whatever.
All
and
the red things are highlighted or something.
red things are highlighted, or
If you
they
combine it
disappear,
with
whatever.
green light, other
Exactly.
things show up.
Then
Absolutely.
plot-
No,
Platforms happen.
this is a narrative like The Sims like management game where you are the madam of a bordello and it's your job to like fix up this old Victorian house that you've bought as your cat house. And meanwhile, as you do this, like you get to learn like your workers, like your girls and your boys, as they go through their life and pass through your halls, you know, doing sex work. And this is a very sex positive game where you have to like mentor them or help them out through like
this
other
is a AAA hostess Yakuza game is what you're saying.
But with an element of interior design, because you have to make your bordello look nice so you can get like nice clientele and earn money.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Closely watched trains.
Densha to go.
Densha to go.
Yeah,
I love
Densha
it.
to go.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Birds, orphans, and fools.
Those are the 3 classes you can play in this, or that you can choose from in this Pokemon-like game.
Okay, so it's a rock, paper, scissors monster catching.
Yes, exactly.
I cast my orphan. He got beat by all the
fools. Beat orphans? Like,
What's the triangle here?
Yeah,
Birds beat orphans.
Super meta, super weird, obscure joke, but this is Tyrion Lannister's second game, a follow-up to his first game, Cripples, Bastards, and Broken Things.
What's the game series? I always forget the triangle of like hierarchy of weapons. Oh, Fire
Emblem.
Yeah,
the axe, spears,
I played like 20 of them,
swords.
and every game I always forget.
Every time I'm like, okay, wait, I have an axe. Is that good against swords or spears? I'm not sure.
It just doesn't.
If they had made
sense.
it fools, orphans, and birds,
we
would
all
I would totally remember.
This is a good one here. Case for a rookie hangman.
Oh,
nice.
Rad.
I gotta watch these. This sounds awesome.
I'm gonna watch this one.
That's a AAA open world game that cost a studio $500 million.
Yeah, I think it's like a Hitman game, basically. It's one of those
I love
Hitmans.
Yeah, I was gonna go like super camp with it.
Set in a steampunk Prague.
Ooh,
and like,
here we go. And it's your first day as a hangman.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually hang the essence of time.
And they say you gotta learn the ropes, kid.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. And here is our last one, The Valley of the Bees.
Valley of the Bees.
It's the Typing of the Dead horror game. I know Typing of the Dead implies horror, but like, yeah, it's a weird, campy, even more campy than Typing of the Dead horror game.
Where you're shooting bees?
Where the bees are actually like the letter B.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
and Nicolas Cage is there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just the whole time. He's just in the background.
Bees,
You don't interact with
eyes,
them.
etc.
Perfect. Well, that is our lightning round. I am going to go ahead and give the win this week to Brandon Sheffield because I decided that's what I'm going to do today.
Ash, I'm giving you all my coins.
There you go. So, Ash, you are currently at 9 credits.
That's not going to stand, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Well, this is a perfect opportunity. If anybody has anything they'd like to recommend to our listeners.
I do. I want to bring up. I'm going to bring up just an interesting video game story.
Perfect.
It's inspired by Ash. Ash's post on Blue Sky about Romance of the Three Kingdoms. And I want to share this weird bit of knowledge about the filmmaker Wong Kar-wai that I love, which is there's this amazing book. Yeah, there's this amazing book by John Powers where Wong Kar-wai has always been this like mysterious Sphinx-like figure, always with the sunglasses in public, who doesn't talk or explain anything. But he made this book like 3 years ago where he just finally revealed a lot about his personal life, and he kind of said like, I want my son to understand where I was all those years I was missing. But it gets into his biographical life, and he's asked, did you ever play any video games? And he says one time he played Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I don't know what iteration or what it was. It was on a PC, and he didn't understand that you could save a game. And so he played it for like 72 hours straight because he was close to like, saving the kingdom, and his wife kept coming into the room saying, what is wrong with you? Like, what
I'm pursuing Lubu.
And he saw like it was so compulsively addictive that he was like, if I do this, I'm never going to make any film. So he never played another game, but it's all because he didn't understand the save game system.
Yeah, I feel like for him, it makes a lot of sense for him because like understanding certain things so well and understanding other things not at all is very in keeping with his filmmaking practice, I would say.
And you could probably say it influenced Ashes of Time, which scrambles the whole Romance of the Three Kingdoms narrative into some nonlinear broken up thing. And Ashes, like, you brought up Romance of the Three Kingdoms lately. Were you recommending the current chat?
I was going to, actually, for my recommendation, I was going to say, go play Dynasty Warriors Origins because it's really cool. But more than that, there is a Chinese drama series called just straight up Three Kingdoms. It's from 2010. It's like 1.5 million episodes that are 45 minutes long, and it goes over like the whole kit and caboodle. It's really good. It's got like some of my favorite interpretations of like Cao Cao and Guan Yu and Zhang Fei and all of these heroes. And Liu Bei is actually like, he actually has a presence because in the video games, you can't hardly tell who Liu Bei is unless he's standing next to his two brothers because he just looks like a dude. Meanwhile, Guan Yu and Zhang Fei have these very like outstanding features about themselves. Like Zhang Fei is like this, you know, really burly, gruff looking guy. And Guan Yu has this incredible beard and Liu Bei is just a dude. So yeah, go watch that show. It is on YouTube. It's subbed. It's fantastic. And play Dynasty Warriors Origins.
Cool.
Nice. Brandon?
Yeah, I got a couple things. One is, since we were talking about Czech New Wave, I don't know why we were talking about Czech New Wave, but one of my favorite post-Czech New Wave films is And Give My Love to the Swallows, directed by Jaromil Jirès, which is like a World War II movie where a prisoner is waiting for her execution and has a conversation with a person in the next cell, and it's really, really interesting. And also, V for Vendetta stole a lot from that. Yeah, wow. It's a, or at least I think, I don't know. That's not like a fact. It's just, if you watch that, you're like, oh, there's a lot of things.
That was.
Yeah. That's cool, but that wasn't good. My main recommendation was going to be, actually, I've been watching a lot of, I guess, Soviet sci-fi lately, and this movie Kinzadza is pretty fun. Deaf Crocodile put out a Blu-ray relatively recently, and it's a sci-fi movie about two guys from communist Russia who get whisked away to a planet where they don't know how to communicate with people, and it's like a capitalist society, and they have to figure it out, and they're really bad at trading and bartering and stuff, and it's like a semi-comedy sci-fi drama that's and it's got a lot of like sets and models being hung down from strings and stuff, and it's a fun visual experience as well. So
that sounds like a great idea for a video game. Sorry to interrupt you, Brad, but like you're an alien who goes to Earth and has to deal with capitalism.
Yeah,
and you're really bad at it.
Yep.
The inverse of Earth Defense Force.
Exactly. And then my last recommendation is, I know I recommended stretching a few weeks ago. Now I want to recommend exercise. In general, as a concept, I want to recommend, I have a reason for this. I want to recommend exercising find some exercises that work for your body and exercise for a half hour every day, because it's all well and good to say punch Nazis, but a lot of us haven't been in a real fight before, and punching a Nazi might actually not work super well. However, having your body in a healthy condition where you can take care of other people if you need to, you can lift that burning car or whatever, is probably one of the best things that we can do for ourselves and the people around us as the coming danger it looms. So yeah, I mean, it would be cool for people to punch Nazis if they know how to do that. But if you don't know how to do that, just get yourself, try to get healthy to whatever extent you can so that you'll be ready.
It might even be useful to be able to run away from Nazis.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry to say that,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I ever since that piece of shit became president, I have been working out for 30 minutes a day. All you got to do, like, I am so out of shape that just doing half an hour of walking is enough to get me in the cardio zone. So just do that, and I'm having a great time with it. I'm going to go do it right after we finish.
I'm not trying to tell anybody to, push your limits or become swole or get huge or whatever. I'm just saying get yourself in a spot, whatever it takes to do so. Walk up and down the stairs instead of taking the escalator, to get yourself in a state where you can move your body the way you want to.
It's a great recommendation. And just tangentially, I think like the dichotomy that introverted, nerdy people shouldn't exercise is actually a really poisonous diatribe. And I think the broligarchy is, we need to like just stop this thing. It's good if you play games to be physically active. It's actually very nerdy to exercise. There's a lot of like calculating you have to do, equipment you have to learn, like, but I for mental health, it's just, there have been many times that I have broken bones in my body from the physical activities I'm into, and the recovery afterwards, just as difficult as it is to come back from zero, like what it does for your mental health with all the anxiety we all have. That's a really, really great recommendation.
Yeah, and I'm just going to point out that I hate exercising. I hate doing it. It is not joyful for me. I know a lot of people get like a runner's high, or they get like a good feeling after they get a good workout in. I don't have it. However, what I do have is, if I don't do it, my body feels bad and my brain feels a little worse. Mm-hmm. If I do it, it sucks while I'm doing it, but then the rest of my day I feel so much better than I otherwise would have.
And I would recommend to people, like, find what you actually enjoy doing, because like I spent my 20s running like 3 miles a day, and I hated it. I actually hated it. And then once I started, cycling was never a thing to me because financially it just wasn't viable, other than riding like, you know, a BMX bike as a kid. But then I got into cycling, and I loved it. Like it was just a thing that I enjoyed doing. So putting in the time for it was really easy. And I just think for a lot of people, you just got to try it. Maybe weightlifting isn't your thing. Maybe, you know, I don't know.
Right. Whether you are lifting weights or cycling or running, you should be listening to podcasts, specifically the Insert Credit podcast, while you do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
So really quickly, I want to recommend Tony Tulamute's book, Rejection. Which ostensibly a collection of short stories. There was a short story that was published in N+1 called The Virgin that kind of made waves when it came out, and this book is like an expansion of it. It's a remarkable piece of fiction that is just the first novel I have encountered that really represents what it feels like to be terminally online.
Sure.
And there is a staggering, it is an absolutely filthy, perverted book. But there is a middle virtuoso short story called Ahiago that culminates. That it culminates in one of the most extraordinary pieces of perverted literature I've ever read. That also had me crying, laughing. That is about the ability for online spaces and games and everything to give us what we want too much. And I'll just leave it at that. But if you want to read a book that's painfully funny about how we are now, and also how people like Tony is Thai American, how we navigate spaces with our identity in the modern world and how painful it can be, and finding the neurotic humor in it, and also some of the horror. It's just a remarkable, remarkable book. And Tony's I've talked to him about Kojima games, and I think he might be annoyed at this, but I think he's part of the first wave of novelists who played Metal Gear Solid 2 way too young.
That is an amazing cohort of people. I definitely want to know what's in their brains.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my recommendation.
With that, I'm going to wrap up and do a couple more recommendations here. If you enjoyed this episode or any episode of Insert Credit, please leave us a review anywhere you're able to do that. You can also support the show at patreon.com/insertcredit. If you'd like to sponsor an episode with an advertisement or personal message, you can reach out to show@insertcredit.com. You can also join our community at forums.insertcredit.com. You can watch this episode as video at youtube.com/insertcredit, where I personally do every part of it, put a lot of work into those videos. Check them out. I think you'll really dig it. This episode is edited by me, Esper Quinn, with original music by Kurt Feldman. This week's Horrible Buzzer is by Mir Inglis. I'm Esper Quinn.
I'm Ash Parrish.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
I'm Aaron Stewart-Ahn.
And your game has now been saved.
Woo, we did it.
Oh, we get to quit.
We did it.
Yes.
That's right.
Breathed.